Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Rick Bradford, pastor at Saddleback Church, Laguna Woods, and this is Inspiration for Today. Thank you for tuning in. As you can tell, we're not in the studio today, and we're not going to be in the studio this week. Do you recognize where we are? Well, we're out here by the Aliso Sycamore. Aliso Creek just to our side, and it's a beautiful morning. We thought we'd come outside and enjoy some of the beauty that Laguna Woods has to offer. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see how this week's shows go. We are going to, like I say, be outside all this week. But our guest for today is Joe Rainey. Good to have you, Joe.
Thank you.
And Joe is a city councilman here in Laguna Woods. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
I know that we often say thank you to policemen, but I appreciate you too, even though it's a little bit safer, isn't it, to be a city councilman?
It's just a way to give back to the community and to serve. That's the way I look at it.
I totally appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I wanted us to just get to know Joe a little bit better, and I asked him for a key verse in his life, and he said that it's in John chapter 14, and so let me just read a little bit from that. By the way, just as an aside, do you have your Bible on your phone? I hope you do, because then you can have the Bible with you at all times. All you have to do, and this is just a little ad, I have nothing to do with this app, but I use a thing called Glow Bible, G-L-O, Glow Bible. And at the App Store, it's absolutely free. So you can download it on your phone and you have it anytime. So I'm not doing texting or something, I'm reading my Bible. Okay. So Joe, here's what you selected.
Yes.
John 14:1. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God and believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms, and if it were not so, would I have told you that? I go to prepare a place for you. Now, you were saying that this was a verse your mom actually quoted to you, or how does this verse fit into your story?
Even in high school, I would worry about things, tests coming up and all of that. My mom would say, "Why do you worry so much?" And then she would quote that verse to me. And then I went in the military, and she prayed for me when I was overseas. And then
don't you love praying moms?
Yeah, I sure do. She prayed for me for many years.
I interrupted you right there because sometimes people say, well, my kids aren't around me.
Oh.
But all of us can be praying for our kids.
Yes.
So your mom was praying for you. You knew it even when you were overseas.
Yeah. And then I came home, and then I got a job with the airlines like I mentioned before. And the company went through some bad times, and I would come. And in the meantime, my father passed away at 55 from a heart attack. And so I became mom's caregiver.
Oh.
And I would come home from the airlines, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I would say, "Well, things at work aren't going so well. The company's declaring bankruptcy and all that." And she said, "Well, why are you worrying about it?" And she would quote John 14:1 to me. And she said, Jesus said that, and he also added on, "If it were not so, I would have told you." And she said, Jesus is promising you, don't worry about this life. Because you have you have eternal peace with Jesus.
It helped put your life in perspective, or actually individual problems or worries into perspective.
She brought me back, and why are you worrying? It's gonna be okay. Eventually, it's gonna be wonderful.
More than okay.
More than okay. But that's what kept me going a lot of times when, all of us, when we encounter problems, we just focus on our problems. And she brought me out of that depression or sadness about what's going to happen tomorrow, and she brought me back to that verse that eventually everything's going to work out for the best.
Yes.
And that was very calming to me.
I bet it was.
I'm glad she did that.
I often use the same verse just to remind myself that when we get to heaven, we have a place to go.
We have a mansion.
Yeah, I mean, well, King James says that.
Okay.
That's the translation, which is, by the way, my favorite translation for this verse. But we will definitely have a wonderful place to live, because who's preparing it for us?
Jesus.
Jesus is.
God, yeah.
And by the way, I've never thought of this before, but when he was here on earth, do you know his profession?
He was a carpenter.
He was for the first 29, 30 years of his life. So now you have infinite, all-wise carpenter God preparing a place for us. So that is really, really something to look forward to. Where were you raised, Joe?
Los Angeles.
So that's a local boy, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, came out in 44. My dad went in the Navy. He lived in San Diego in naval housing, and then after the war ended in 45, my dad moved us up to Southern California and grew up in Los Angeles.
Wow. That's great. And then eventually you come out here to Laguna Woods.
When my father died, I moved down to Orange County.
And this verse has stayed with you your whole life.
Every time I hear that verse, I think of Mom.
Wow.
Because it wasn't once or twice. It was so many times in my life that she would, she knew I was worried, and she cared for me. She loved me. So that was her way of just calming me down and bringing me back to the promise of God. Promise of Jesus.
Well, this verse starts with, let not your heart be troubled.
And that's why she...
But it does say, so believe in God and believe in me. That's Jesus speaking. So he's saying, believe in God, believe in me, because basically he goes on to say, because God and I are one.
Yes.
And so, anyway, that's great, Joe. And I find it very encouraging as we sit out here in God's creation. Now, I just was curious. We have a minute or two left. So as city councilman, I mean, how does your faith play into day-to-day business? I mean, which really has most of the time nothing to do with things of the Lord.
Yeah, it really does, Pastor. My basic way of life is Judeo-Christian values. And that's what I learned from church.
Yes.
If it wasn't for the church and for the Bible and for all the Bible studies I've been in all these years,
yes,
I wouldn't have a foundation. And I know things are going to come up, crises are going to come up in your life and in your city, but it gives me the faith that eventually things are going to work out for the good.
Yes.
And God has even said,
right,
that all things work for the good.
He does, yes.
It's not always going to be good, but eventually, and we don't know when we're going through struggles and issues, we don't know, but I know God has a plan for all of us.
And I do think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that a faith that has a basis like this, my guess is it really helps you stay calm.
Yes.
If some emergency does come up, even in our city, I think you're going to be able to stay calm in that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I totally appreciate you coming in and doing this. I love your verse. I love our city.
I do too.
By the way.
And I love the people in the city.
I know. I have to say, I kind of got here by accident in a way, but not accident in the Lord's plan.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful that I ended up here, because I've lived here about 13 years now. I don't know. How about yourself?
22 years.
No way.
Yes.
You must have moved here very young.
I was young when
I was young too, actually.
Yes.
Well, Laguna Woods, thank you for tuning in today. I hope this verse and our conversation was a blessing to you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.